2026 brings a handful of updates to Acura's hatchback, the Integra, and this one is particularly interesting to me because I was actually considering buying one of these recently, but being a masochist, sorry, the PC term is car enthusiast, I ended up buying an old high mileage German car instead. But this one is still quite interesting, and as always I'm going to go through this thing from the outside in, talk about what's new for this year and what this thing has been like to live with. Let's go ahead and take a look. Underneath the hood is a familiar 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. This is the same as it was last year, but it produces 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. If that doesn't quite do it for you, you can always go up into the Type S, which is one hell of a machine. But honestly, I think that this is plenty of power and it suits the car nicely. It can get out of its own way just fine. Power goes exclusively through the front wheels, and you have the choice of either a CVT or a 6-speed manual transmission, something that is dying here, especially in luxury vehicles, but glad to see it here. But if you do want that third pedal, you're going to have to go into the top trim A-Spec Tech Pack, or I guess the Type S. That is its own separate animal. I'm going to treat that separately. So you do have to get the top trim A-Spec Tech Pack, but it is a no cost option. So there's that. Opting for the manual also gets you a limited slip differential in the front, and your fuel economy here is right around 30 miles per gallon combined. I'm averaging 28 in the real world with my half city, half highway commute here. So not too shabby. For 2026, Acura has swapped the colors around a little bit. There's a new gray, a new silver, and this double Apex blue replaces Apex blue. Really stretched on the name there. This is what happens when you double the amount of Apex in your color, I guess. But it is a neat color and it looks kind of different in different lighting. There's like hints of green in it. It is quite a nice color. Acura has also decided that any new blue or red Integras should have a color matched grille. That one is a little bit of a head scratcher. I don't think it looks particularly great. Everyone I've talked to has kind of been a little on the fence about it. I'm interested to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments if you think that's a good move or a bad move. But again, it's only on blue or red, and that's a little bit frustrating because those are the two colors that would be my top choices. There's also a new set of black shoes on the A-Spec. I love the design. I don't love the black wheel trend, but that's a thing that's going on across the industry. And they're going to be wrapped in all seasons no matter which spec you get, but they're going to be 17s in the base, 18s in the upper two specs. So if you're opting for the manual, you're gonna get 18s. Some other key features on the outside are the aggressive dual LED headlights. I love the look of these things, and they provide great visibility at night as well. But LED headlights, LED tail lights, LED DRLs, LED fog lights here in the upper specs. Keyless access, the touch to lock, touch to unlock, and heated mirrors. LED lights in the top spec here, and these don't power fold, but they will tilt when you go into reverse. And parking sensors all around are unique to the top spec here. And the hatch opens up into massive amounts of space. This is another big reason why I was looking at this one over an SI, is that you get this hatchback with massive amounts of space. It's just over 24 cubic feet. There's not really a ton of space underneath here and no real spare, unfortunately, but massive amounts of space. You got your subwoofer back here. You do have some hooks, and you can always drop these seats down if you want a little bit of extra space. Now, one of the big things for me, I needed to be able to get my dog back here, and because of the rake of the roof, it's not like a true squared off hatchback, and the fact that it has this high lip means it's kind of hard for my dog to get in. Then once I close that, he can't really stand up or anything. So that was one of the considerations for me. It kind of kept me away from this vehicle, but it is a ton of space if you have a smaller dog, or if you're just fitting stuff back here. You got kids and you've got to get all their 3,000 things back here just to take a trip over to Walmart, then there is plenty of space for that. Now, I mentioned keyless access, but here in the top spec, your key also attaches to personalized settings, which is a nice little touch. And there is also remote start if you get the top spec, but only if you get the CVT. Of course, this one being a 3-pedal variant does not have remote start, but it is actually a solid key. Props to Acura for actually giving out solid keys here in 2025 when most of the keys are just like these cheap plasticky things. The interior of the Integra is largely the same here for 2026, especially if you're looking for the A-Spec Tech Pack, which if you're looking for a manual, you are, because that's the only way to get it. The pattern on the dash has been updated, and if you opt for the Orchid White interior, you'll see hints of blue that weren't there last year. Still no Superman blue over red, unfortunately. So if you get the blue exterior, you'll only get the choice of a white or a black interior, but there is a red available if you get one of the other colors. Other trims do see some upgrades, like the 9-inch screen is now standard, so is wireless charging, wireless Apple CarPlay, and Android Auto, and the A-Spec gets the extended LED ambient lighting. Things like heated seats, power adjustable driver's seat, and auto dimming mirror were already standard across the board, and so that carries over here as well. This one being the top trim means memory settings, and the power adjustability in the seats ramps up to 12-way instead of 8-way, including lumbar support. Still no ventilation here, still no bolster adjustments. I do wish these were a little more snug like the ones in the SI, but otherwise they're fairly comfortable. Still no heated steering wheel like they get up north. That one I am pretty bummed about, but hey, we probably won't get winters anymore anyway. And outside of that, it is fairly comfortable, nicely laid out, easy to use. The cluster is familiar with a handful of menus to cycle through on each side, along with some assist features in the middle. I do wish there was a more focused, like tack in the middle option, but it gets the job done just fine. A head-up display is unique to the top trim and includes handy things like your current speed, directions, even if you're using Android Auto, driver's assist features, and all that stuff can be adjusted either through your cluster or through your infotainment screen. The infotainment I mentioned doesn't look different here in the manual, but it does have a faster processor. It's clean and simple. A lot of stuff is locked out during driving, which can be a little frustrating, like when I wanted to disable the rev matching when I first got in it, but then I had to wait until I could pull over and stop. But that's not a thing you're going to be messing with all the time, and outside of that, it's a nice easy system, and you can throw shortcuts all over the place. No real issues here. Wireless charger down under the manual HVAC controls. This is a dual zone climate here in the top spec. I love that we still have manual knobs here and it's not buried in the infotainment. You also have some USBs down here, an A and a C, as well as a 12-volt. Your drive modes are easily accessible, and your auto start stop. I'll talk about the auto start stop during the drive, but it's actually not too annoying. Your brake hold, and of course your manual transmission. Your cup holders are pretty deep here, down and out of the way. If you are ordering like an extra large coffee, or you've got a Yeti or a Stanley or one of those big giant mugs, then those are probably going to get in your way, and you're going to want to stash those in the door. But outside of that, they're not really too in the way for shifting. The sound system in the A-Spec Tech Pack is a 16-speaker ELS Studio 3D sound system versus the 8 speakers you get in the other trim levels. And honestly, that's one of the biggest considerations for me over the Civic SI as well, since that one has, I believe, an 8 or 9 speaker Bose sound system. The back seats are massive for a compact car, 37.4 inches of legroom. I've got booster seats back here. Forward-facing car seats are going to be fine as well. Rear-facing should be okay as long as you're not over like maybe 6'2"-ish. I'm only 5'7", and as you can see, I've got tons of space. There's some USB-Cs down here, and you do get the fold-down armrest with the cup holders, but interestingly, there are no vents in the middle. That seems like an odd thing to omit in something that's classified as a luxury vehicle, and I really would have thought that they would have added that during the update here. But outside of that, nice and spacious. Would be plenty comfortable being back here for long periods of time. For the driving experience, well, you've driven a current gen Civic SI and you were expecting a nicer Civic here, then you pretty much got it down. The biggest difference is going to be in the ride. This is a lot softer than the SI. It does have the adjustable suspension, but even in the stiffest setting, it's not nearly as stiff as the Honda counterpart. You can adjust that setting either in your individual mode, or just pop it into sport mode, and that will just put everything in the sportiest settings, including your suspension, your steering, and your throttle response. And the steering still is pretty nice and heavy here. It's not like Type R heavy, and it might be a tad lighter than it is in the SI. It is like artificially heavy, but you know, I'm somebody that really likes a lot of weight in the steering. So I really like the steering rack here. The power is a big point of contention because what's 200 horsepower nowadays? Everybody says, oh, that's not enough, especially in something that's a performance-oriented car. Honestly, I think it suits this car well. I think it's enough to get out of its own way, and it means that you can actually wring it out in lower gears. There are plenty of people that say, oh, well, it's not naturally aspirated. It's not like the old Hondas. It's not as fun to wring out. I still like to wring out a manual transmission, even if it is turbocharged, and you can actually do that here in like 1, 2, 3. Once you start getting into fourth gear, then, you know, get yourself into a little trouble. But I actually enjoy wringing this thing out, and I like the power here. And since it is turbocharged, you just get that wall of torque all the way up the tack. Short gearing makes for more control and a lot more shifting, which, you know, that's where the fun lies in buying a manual anyway. It also means that you're sitting around 3,000 RPM when you're going 70 down the highway. It's still efficient anyway. You know, I'm still getting about 28 miles per gallon combined and better on the highway, but I'd be lying if I said I haven't reached for 7th gear once or twice. The one thing I hated the last time I test drove one of these, I was coming out of a BRZ, but honestly, coming out of any other manual, the clutch feels like pushing paper with even less feedback somehow, and it was really bugging me. Luckily, you do get used to it over time. Like now that I'm at the end of the week, I've got no problems with the clutch pedal, but it would be nice to have a little bit more spring to it and at least a little bit of feedback. The pedals are spaced nicely though if you do want to do some heel towing, and the gearbox is nice and tight with very short throws. This is not the same Honda of old where you feel like you're reaching into the transmission and swapping gears yourself. You get that super mechanical connected feel, but it is still a very enjoyable shifting experience. Now, if you are one to push your front-wheel drive luxury vehicles, the manual version gets a limited slip differential to help you keep your line a little bit better, and it does hold the line quite well in spite of the tires. This could certainly use a good set of sticky summer tires or even a stickier set of all seasons if you are planning to do some spirited driving. When it comes to daily drivability, outside of decent ride quality and good fuel economy, it's not the quietest thing here. It's definitely still a nicer Civic. It is not like a top level luxury car here. There's some decent amount of road noise getting in, but it also has all the driver's assist stuff you expect, and there haven't been too many beeps and boops this week. You can always tone stuff down, adjust your settings as needed, but it's got the blind spot monitoring, the rear cross traffic, the parking sensors, all the kinds of stuff I like to mention that's, you know, sort of your baseline here for a 2025, 2026 model year vehicle. Even got rain sensing wipers, look at that. But it also has adaptive cruise and lane centering, and that's even on the manual version here. So the adaptive cruise will work even if it starts to slow you down. You just switch gears, and as soon as you're engaged, it picks right back up. And the lane centering works really pretty well too, and I know that's like a stupid little thing keeping you centered in your lane, but it really is nice on long highway stints to just kind of help with the fatigue a little bit instead of making a zillion little micro adjustments. And it is a pretty decent system. Once you start getting into curvy roads and stuff, it's not going to work as well, so don't use this on the track or anything, but on the highway, the long highway stints, it works quite well. And I do have to acknowledge the auto start stop feature here. It's odd seeing it in a manual. It's becoming more popular even in manuals at this point, and I know like a lot of people hate that feature in general, but I feel like it's worse in an automatic because by the time you take your foot off the brake and go to hit the gas, sometimes they're not ready. The systems aren't ready for you to go quite yet. But in here, it's pretty seamless. You don't get like the big shudder of the car starting up here. It's a pretty smooth start. And as soon as you brush the clutch pedal, it's already sparking back up. So really, by the time you're ready to go, the car is ready and there's really no waiting. So I haven't even turned it off this week. I've just left it on and it really hasn't bugged me at all. Ultimately, I have had a great week with this car, and as I mentioned, I was strongly considering buying one of these, and really my only issues are kind of nitpicky here. I do wish that you could have a heated steering wheel down in the States. For some reason, they left that off the list, even though you can get it up in Canada. And I'm not the biggest fan of the updates to the front end or even the yellow stitching on the inside, but they're minor things, and it's still such a great car to live with. There are so few manual sedans and hatchbacks out there, and even the Civic Sport Touring hatch no longer offers a manual. So if you want a hatchback, your options are even fewer and farther between. Now the price point is a little bit tough to swallow here, up at around $40,000, since you do have to have the top spec, just over $40,000. But there are deals to be had, and especially if you want to go for a new 2025 or a lightly used Integra, since really the updates here for the manual version are all aesthetic. The changes really come in upgrades to the base version and to the A-Spec. So this one really is pretty much the same other than the aesthetic. So if you don't want one of the new colors, if you don't like the stitching on the inside, if you're willing to live without those things, you can get a great deal on a 1 or 2 year old version of this Integra. And honestly, that is the route I would probably go. I would go with the Apex Blue, the regular Apex Blue, from a couple of years ago, and I would be super happy living with this car. As always, let me know what you think about the 2026 Acura Integra. If you think that it's worth the price jump over the Civic SI, if you think that the updates are worth it here for 2026, which one you would go for. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.